Nothing in this podcast is intended as investment advice, and the people in this podcast may hold positions in the stocks they talk about. Do not buy any investment based solely on a tip or recommendation. Please do your own research.
Hello and welcome to the Midweek Takeaway. Today we're delighted to welcome Leon Coetzer, CEO of Jubilee Metals Group. Leon, it's great to have you back with us.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you for the opportunity again.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, let's dive into the latest news from Jubilee. Obviously, in Zambia, copper production reached 1,454 tonnes in the first half of financial year 2025, falling short of the 1,800-tonne target due to power constraint, which temporarily halted operations at the Rowan plant. However, a new power agreement is set to restore stability within a week, allowing operations to resume and meet target. Meanwhile, the Munkoyo project maintained a strong performance, producing over 70,000 tonnes of run-of-mine monthly, with promising results from pilot-scale leach trials. In South Africa, Jubilee delivered record chrome concentrate production of 974,000 tonnes, a 35.7% increase, putting the company on track to exceed its financial year 2025 guidance of 1.65 million tonnes. Additionally, 6E PGM output reached 18,435 ounces, keeping pace with the annual target of 36,000 ounces. Leon, it's an impressive mix of sort of challenges and successes, but could you tell us more about this update and how Jubilee is addressing these developments?
Certainly. Thank you, Phil. Very much a mixed bag of brilliant performance by the team, but also facing some severe challenges. Exactly. I mean, if you touched on South Africa. South Africa is a mature business, delivered exactly as we said it would. You know, within those results are yet again 2 further processing modules commissioned on time, in budget, ramped up, meeting its targets and producing its product, its chrome product, and again showing what we're able to do and capable to perform at with such a stable business under such strong leadership. In Zambia, we were celebrating last year the fact that we had completed our Rowan upgrade. We had ramped it up to meet its throughput targets, and unfortunately then we were faced with the challenge of stable power, which forced us, for the safety of the plant, to bring down that plant into care and maintenance. We didn't waste the time. We spent the time maintaining the plant, and in the background, of course, accelerated discussions and negotiations to supplement our existing private power agreement with a further power agreement. And the fundamental difference between the 2 power agreements we've literally only signed last week is that the second power agreement, which supplements the first power agreement, is sourced from a variety of power generating capacities and areas and regions. It's not localized to a specific power generating plant. So buffers one against any localized challenges that might be faced. And it's going through its regulatory approval, which typically takes between 4 to maybe 7 business days before the power is delivered, and allows us to really get going again on Rowan, which we had just finished last year. On Munkoyo, the team has done brilliantly well. Munkoyo was our first example of securing and acquiring the rights to an open pit mining operation that contained very shallow copper. And there were 2 components in the Munkoyo that we wanted to prove not only to ourselves, but also to our investors. The one is that we were able to bring it into operation at such a pace. Within 4 months of acquisition, it was already up and running, the operation. The second component was that we wanted to solve, or needed to solve, the processing solution to process and recover copper out of weathered rock, because this rock is so shallow that it's very weathered copper. And we needed to show, how do we process that material? And that's why Munkoyo was run where the high grade is leached directly at Sable, while the lower grade run-of-mine material is stockpiled at Munkoyo, while we completed these pilot trials of our process solution, which has shown exceptional results to recover that copper. It exceeded our expectations on how little chemicals we require to extract the copper, the amount of copper we can extract, and therefore the footprint that is needed for this processing facility is much smaller than what we had anticipated. So really positive outcome. We, of course, are extremely eager to get going with Rowan again and ramp it up to deliver its copper. It's a fundamental part to our copper increase and our profile of copper production for the year. So all in all, great effort by the team. Faced certain challenges, but we certainly have overcome those.
Yeah, and as you say, despite those challenges, you know, that copper production there at Munkoyo with the run of mine has remained strong. Could you just
Yes.
share with us sort of more about the processes and strategies that contributed to that kind of the stability in keeping that run of mine consistent? And also, you just alluded to those pilot scale leach trials, have shown promising results.
Sure.
How soon could we see these being implemented at scale, and what sort of impact do you think this will have on the overall production?
It's a significant. So yes, very much Munkoyo. As we said, previously, Munkoyo was our first. Following Munkoyo, we acquired Project G, as we called it, and we've targeted many more. We look forward to bringing the news out to the market in due course as we pursue more acquisitions similar to Munkoyo. But we had to first solve the processing matter at Munkoyo. We were able to, at Munkoyo, because it's light on electricity, light on power, to be able to continue operating as normal at Munkoyo. The team had opened up the area and was able to maintain and ramp up its run-of-mine production rate at Munkoyo. We roughly transport about 8,000 tons or 8,500 tons, depending on the month, direct to Sable, roughly about between 40 to 50 kilometers far. And we direct leach that high grade 2.5% plus, often 2.8 up to 3% copper directly through Sable, while the lower grade is left on site because we don't want to destroy all that value by transporting it to Sable. The solution we looked was to develop a electricity light solution to extract the copper out of its weathered rock without requiring the full refining type circuit. That was the approach taken at Munkoyo. The technical team has been running and developing the solution for many, many, many months in the background, and that was scaled up into a pilot scale run at Sable on the Munkoyo ore to produce a very rich copper solution, which one can precipitate and sell or refine to cathode. And that's the results that have come out during the December trial. And our team will, by the end of this quarter, finish the complete design, capital numbers, and development numbers for that project. Because we were able to reduce the footprint of this required plant, it also means that we can predominantly source the equipment local. There's no long lead items that has to be imported to the facilities or into Zambia, and that brings forward the implementation dramatically of that facility. And we'll bring out those numbers at the conclusion of that design work the team is currently very heavily involved in for Munkoyo. It also means that with that being solved for Munkoyo, we are now far more aggressively looking at securing more of Munkoyo style operations. We've solved the problem. We know we are leading in this race, and we need to capitalize on that position as rapidly as we can.
So regarding the copper production, we've fallen a bit short, obviously, because of the electricity problems that the Zambia has had. And I understand it's been absolutely pouring down in Zambia, so hopefully that isn't going to be a long-term thing. Hopefully they're going to have maintenance of the water or an increase in the water so that they can have this electricity throughout the year coming forward. But you are 346 tons short of where your target is now. With all of the stockpiling of the run of mine, do you see that you can actually catch this up if you have the right electricity for both Rowan and Sable?
Fundamentally, I mean, our approach is quite simple, and that is push as hard as we can to get stable power immediately to Rowan, bring Rowan back up and push it as hard as we possibly can. We will certainly put all the effort into trying to pull back those tonnages lost as fast as we can. And on the power side, Zambia has been very proactive in addressing the challenges. There are a number of large projects being kicked off to resolve the power constraints into the long term as well. And yes, we are fortunate that we now have a complementary power agreement, one with a local power generating firm, one that is far more dispersed to protect us in the short term. So I've no doubt that the power challenges Zambia is facing is being and will be resolved in the longer term.
But your full year target production for copper was to be double this 1,800, or was it more? Was it to be 3,600, or was it to
Our
be...
full year target is just north of 5,500 tons of copper to be produced on the back of Rowan kicking in at full stream. The key for us now is to get Rowan up and running again full steam. That's the critical next step for us to achieve that. As soon as that power becomes available, we're working very closely with the regulator to accelerate that approval and get that to Rowan so we can, in fact, get it back up to its full throughput and on the right material.
But if you have Sable running at full capacity with this run of mine from Munkoyo, it alone could do 5,500 tons of copper, no?
So Munkoyo alone already has nearly 8,500 tons of copper just in its own ROM, locked in its own ROM. So the potential of Munkoyo is significant. But to unlock that copper requires the processing facility that we'll be putting down at Munkoyo. It's not particularly high capital because it's quite a compact facility. But you're right. I mean, if you've got a Munkoyo and you've got your Project G operating, it alone already adds significant copper into Sable. Roan is in addition to that. Roan is a fundamental link in that process because of its size of Roan. Roan has been expanded. It's a very large operating footprint and therefore contributes significantly to the overall copper. But as we've said before, if you've got 3 odd Munkoyos secured within Jubilee, Sable is really at its full capacity just from those 3 operations. And then Roan becomes an addition to. So all of Roan's operations and production is in addition to what Sable produces.
And what is Sable's full production annually if you have the right materials to go through it?
You know, as we said last, is we're expanding Sable to be a 14,000 ton per annum copper producer. That's Sable's capacity.
Okay. It is now, or it will be?
It will be. At the moment, Sable is running at 6,500 to 7,000 tons capacity.
Okay, very good. And from the point of view of what's been happening in South Africa, you are happy with what's been happening in terms of the chrome, the concentrate. You feel that this 1.65 you stated in the RNS that you could well exceed that guidance. What gives you confidence that that would be the case?
Well, firstly, I mean, we've added 2 further processing units into operational profile, and that only really has contributed to the last 6 weeks of this past quarter to the operational numbers. Already, we are well past halfway on the 1.65. We're sitting at nearly 970, 980,000 tons of produced chrome concentrate. So we're set to comfortably achieve that guidance for our chrome. Our PGM guidance is also well intact because we're running at full capacity at our PGM facility during this time.
And what's your thoughts? This is not really a question about Jubilee. What is your thoughts going forward about the PGMs? Has a lot of production fallen off the map because they couldn't produce it at this cost, or where are we at with it?
There's many views at the moment. There's quite a few recent articles as recent as January coming out on PGMs. And I think the ultimate PGM recovery is less so driven by potentially PGM production falling off, but PGM demand starting to show even a slight increase. It's already muted that platinum is running and palladium is running at a slight deficit. So it takes a very small increase in demand to really expose the shortage of supply in the platinum and palladium markets. And that's really what we look towards 2025, as more and more analysts are projecting that deficit is starting to put pressure, and therefore one expects it to start reflecting in the PGM prices probably towards the second quarter and third quarter of this year.
Is this partly because of our wonderful EV? Everybody's going to buy an EV, and now we're going to actually have to buy petrol engines or diesel engines and have catalytic converters, which obviously is a big part of where the PGMs go, I think.
Well, what's happened really in the market is a new market and had to find its feet. It had to find what's that perfect balance or match that the consumer and infrastructure can carry between EV and internal combustion engines. And more the hybrid car is being preferred by the consumer and by many regions where you require both the electrical component of the car as well as a smaller internal combustion engine, which requires the PGM catalyst. And that's the mix that's starting to take shape, and that's the area within the market that's showing the strongest growth. And it's that's starting to reflect in the supply-demand curve of PGMs.
Very good. I feel almost like you are a rocket on the pad, and actually the problem is that you got enough fuel to start the engines, and then we didn't have enough fuel to carry on, which was the electricity, obviously in Zambia. So let's just hope that this continues, that your electricity supply now will be constant, because if it does, then you're going to get fully fueled and you should move up. I mean, the market obviously likes it this morning. You're close to 4p now. You're up 16% this morning. But what is the situation with the selling pressure from the funds? Can you give us any guidance, or have you had any communication with any of them?
I think everybody was deeply disappointed in the share price performance. Everybody was deeply concerned in the situation that's happening in copper. And I think what this morning's announcement really establishes for the funds as well is that, yes, we faced a severe challenge, but we were able to, in a very short space of time, address it, correct it, and stabilize the problem. And I think that brings the confidence back into that concern that came through the market. And I think people are eagerly awaiting to see how the copper production actually steps up in this. And as you said, then you are a rocket, and maybe the countdown happened and there was a loose wire, and they have tightened the wire now, so we're on the second countdown for that rocket. And that's what people are really, really impatiently, which is understandable, waiting for, is to actually see that now launch. We have invested heavily into building the operating footprint, spending the capital to get that operational footprint expanded and ready to launch, to use your analogy. So the expensive part is behind us. And even the difficult part, which was the ramp up, which we did last year, is behind us. It literally now is the launch to take your analogy forward.
Yeah, you would have said in the past, I think when we've spoken to you, that one of the big things was finding the right run of mine. Tick. Now you have it in Munkoyo. And then obviously the electricity, we had tick, obviously unforeseen circumstances, but now hopefully another tick. And also it's raining a lot there. It must be quite strange actually, because you go from Johannesburg where the sun is cracking the flags, you jump on a plane 2 hours to Zambia and it's absolutely pouring down. But anyway, the scenario seems to be that everything, hopefully, touch wood, is now in place, and the next quarter should be quite interesting.
It certainly is. And I mean, even if there are more challenges, I think the one thing this team has shown is it can face up to those challenges, tackle them and resolve them. But as you said, we're hoping that the challenges have now been thrown at us, we've been tested, and now we can simply launch.
And just as a parting shot, Leon, I mean, what would you say to any potential investors who are looking at Jubilee as a kind of long-term growth opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, we can't be positioned better. We have spent capital. We have capitalized, built facilities. We have a South African business that is absolutely running to target and expanded when people thought it's impossible to expand at the size they were already. We have a copper opportunity with refineries, plants, facilities, run of mine, owning mines, coming into operation of these mines. We cannot be positioned better than to deliver growth in our business.
On that note, we'll say Leon Coetzer, CEO of Jubilee Metals, thanks very much for appearing on the podcast.
Well, thank you for the time again, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Leon.
This podcast was brought to you by Roast PR Limited. If you would like to appear on a future episode of The Sunday Roast, please email admin@thesundayroast.net.